We'll start the broad topics with the Lethal Lockdown, which is the return of Lockdown, by the way. In case you don't know, Lockdown is TNA's all-steel cage match pay-per-view. I guess we shouldn't take that for granted. Every match takes place inside the 6 sides of steel. It's the second year they have done it. The first Impact of the month, March 18th, 2006, opens with Planet Jarrett. Jarrett comes out first. He starts claiming he's run Sting out of TNA again.
It's a good bit for him to just be like, I have got him again!
He's gone for good!
Wile E. Coyote running into the wall.
Jarrett now, his fit is generally like denim shirt or denim jacket. He seems to vary. And khaki pants and a t-shirt. It's a cursed fit. It's a bad era.
But it's perfect.
He thankfully doesn't say much before Scott Steiner comes out. This is Steiner's first TNA interview. He does get a big reaction. Mike TNA says, "It's a payday, that's what it is. You know it and I know it." It's like, yeah, it is, Mike, you're not wrong. As Steiner does his entrance. I set the clock to it. Steiner calls somebody fat within 39 seconds.
That's an even better speedrunning time than yours.
That's true. How many women do you
think
Could
Scott Steiner wear 100? Could Scott Steiner name 100 women?
I'm not sure.
To be fair, could Scott Steiner name 100 people?
He has all his freaks, though, so surely he knows all the names.
Freak
of his
1,
freaks,
Freak
right?
2, Freak 3, Freak 4.
He just says all my
how
freaks
many
out
freaks
there,
are
and
at
that
your
counts
door?
100. Yeah. He says how he watched 3D come in, he watched Rhino come in, he watched Christian come in, but they never called Scott Steiner, and he's mad. 3D, he did immediately call them fat backyarders. He called them fat roly-polies, in fact.
That's awesome.
Steiner says if he was as fat as Team 3D, he'd stay in the backyard. He says the vein in his arm is as big as Christian's arm. His arm is as big as Christian's leg. The crowd chant, "We want Christian." Steiner's like, he's afraid. While Steiner is going off on Sting, the crowd start chanting, "We want Borden."
Hell yeah, Steve.
They want Steve to show up again.
Do you think there was a moment where they're like, oh, it's just going to be Steve Borden in TNA?
I hope there was like a talking point that like, oh, they lost the copyright to WWE or something.
That'd be so funny.
It was a forum conspiracy that the reason they started calling him Steve Borden is because WWE owns Sting. If you have a problem with Jarrett, you have a problem with Steiner. And then he demands the white trash and rednecks in the crowd sit down as Dinesh rose to the back. A solid opening salvo from Big Papa Pump.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much everything you'd want from a Scott Steiner debut promo.
He is unhinged. He is a little bit crazy. He's shouting at the crowd, which I always appreciate. And he's having himself a good time.
It feels like a real deal Scott Steiner.
The next week, Sting talks about everything Jarrett has done. There's a sit-down interview with Sting. How he messed with his family, how he stalked him, how he made it personal. So he came back to Destination X to get revenge. But Sting is like, you know what? You one-upped me. You had something on me. Fair play to you. You got Jeff Jarrett. But there's a way we used to solve this back in my day, when we used to have issues, when we used to have problems. It's a little thing called war games. War games.
Yeah, but we can't use that.
He does say war games, and then it's like 6 sides of steel. 1 ring, not 2. 1 ring. He is very, very specific to stress multiple times. 1 ring. But then he's like starts making his own alterations, a ceiling on the top with weapons hanging. So it's a little different, because last year they did do a Lethal Lockdown that had weapons, but they were just attached to the cage wall.
I like him on the roof.
Yeah, the ceiling coming down is like a cool dramatic moment in the match, and then you have weapons hanging from the roof. And it also makes the weapons like a part of the last stretch of the match as opposed to the whole match, which makes them feel more special.
Yeah, which means it has to be a real match.
Yeah, they have to actually wrestle rather than just hit each other with things, yeah. And then suggests that Steve Borden isn't coming to Lockdown. Sting is coming to Lockdown.
Hell, fuck yeah.
Jarrett and Steiner then come out immediately after that. Steiner starts picking on Don West, which is very rude.
He's very mean.
Mike TNA is like, screw you guys, we have a match. Come on out, the Naturals. Naturals, come out, have your match. Jarrett and Steiner then attack the Naturals after the Naturals make their entrance. Steiner drops them with a suplex. Steiner press slams Andy Douglas out to the floor and shouts, "Shut up, West," as Don West says that's mean and cruel. And he's beating up Andy Douglas. Steiner lays Douglas head and arm against the post, hits it with a chair. He then hits him with a chair some more and locks him in the Steiner recliner on the floor as he screams Sting's name. Sting does not give a fuck about the Naturals. They go to break and they come back as Andy Douglas is stretched out, and they replay Douglas getting his ass kicked.
This is very Rinka King coded.
Yeah, he comes in as like this even like the week before when Steiner's doing his interview, Mike TNA is very much being like, Steiner, live mic, fucking disaster. So like they're like, the moment Steiner comes in, they are like, this guy is unhinged, this guy cannot be stopped, this guy is out of control. And this is again another segment for him to just kill some guys, shout at Don West, threaten Don West seem like a menace and an actual threat.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like Skyna should feel kind of like Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, he literally just comes in and just starts causing chaos because he's Scott freaking Steiner. April 1st Impact, JB has Jarrett. JB asks Jarrett if he knows if Sting is here tonight because Sting is meant to be in the building. Jarrett is wearing a lime green t-shirt, multiple sizes too small. It is very, very tight for him. It's an unpleasant t-shirt. Go back to the denim fit. I'm sorry I ever questioned it. It was also GFW green colored, so that's a tease.
Oh my god. What a tease. This is cinema. This is storytelling.
Literally, I'm just going to take the screenshot of that t-shirt and put it next to the lime green GFW ropes and be like, long-term storytelling cinema.
Here is my thread.
And that tweet will get like 4,000 likes still. Jarrett announces his team for Lethal Lockdown. It will be himself, Scott Steiner, and America's Most Wanted. Which is... Lethal Lockdown, I think, generally becomes 5-on-5. Interesting that here it's 4-on-4. Which I think makes for a better paced match, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the pace... Because, like, it's less of just, like, there's actual no consequences portion of the match. Where you're just, like, waiting for the next sort of entrance.
Right after the segment is where they aired highlights of the house show in front of what they said was nearly 4,000 fans in Michigan, which is true, apparently, according to Dave. So they're not lying.
It was certainly nearly that.
JB later in the show is in the back with Planet Jarrett. They're going to go to the ring and call out Sting because they're like, fuck him, we're going to get there first. I like the way there's a segment, I think, earlier on this show, maybe on the show before, where they're like hyping Sting up tonight, and Mike Tenay and Don West are doing a bit where Mike Tenay is like, later tonight we have an X Division number contenders match, and Don West is like, and Sting, and then Mike Tenay is like, later tonight we have an NWA World Tag Team title match
and Sting,
and yeah, they do that like 4 times. Don is having himself a great time,
and then Tenay's like, yes, I heard Sting will be here too.
He does almost roll his eyes at it at the end. It's like, you constructed this bit, you can't give out to him.
That's good though.
We get a feature on Steiner leading into Sting proposing Lethal Lockdown, and they have a little diagram, a little design for Lethal Lockdown.
It's silly.
It's a little 3D render.
I can't believe Lethal Lockdown didn't make it into the TNA game.
I guess, like, it's probably a lot harder to program and design than the Ultimate X is.
Is it?
Because, like, Ultimate X, you just have to put the structure up and program the belt coming down, you know? Whereas Lethal Lockdown, you need to introduce a cage, you need to introduce the lowering of the door, you need to introduce the staggered entrances, which takes a lot more time and effort. It's definitely one that would have been in the sequel, I think, but obviously the sequel was never made. Because, like, TNA doesn't have that many signature matches. Like, they have Ultimate X, they have Monsters Ball, they have Lethal Lockdown.
Full Metal Mayhem.
But that didn't even make the game either.
Yeah, I fuck with Full Metal Mayhem, though.
The only stiffs you get in the game are Ultimate X and Fall Scan Anywhere.
Yeah.
But Planet Jarrett come out to end the show. He wants to know what Sting's team is. Rhino and the James Gang appear in the crowd. They do a quick little promo. Truth appears in the crowd with the wonderful combination of Shark Boy, Norman Smiley, and Chase Stevens.
The babyface army.
That is the true Sting's Warriors.
You should have picked that team.
It would have been a better team. Norman Smiley, absolute ace. That's the reason Scott Steiner took Norman Smiley out. He knew how dangerous he was.
Yeah, exactly. He knew.
Leads the crowd chanting "What's up" for like at least a minute to the dissatisfaction of Jeff Jarrett. Styles appears on like the ramp, the corner of the ramp. There's like a little area there that he's standing on with Lethal, Sabin, and Sanjay Dutt, looking ridiculous as a combination of human beings.
I liked this segment of being like, you know, fuck all of... Like, fuck this team. Everyone just hates them. Let's all just mess with them for a segment.
Yeah, and nearly all of these people actually do have problems with Planet Jarrett. Except the James Gang, I guess. They haven't really done anything with them. But, like, Rhino has had issues with Abyss and Planet Jarrett. Even Shark Boy Norman Smiley had, like, the 8-man tag against them a few weeks ago. And, you know, Sabin and Dutt had the problems with them, with AMW, trying to take them out after the tag title match at a couple of months ago. So, like, all of these people have had, like, little interactions with Planet Jarrett so that they're not just guys thrown out there for no reason. Sting appears in the ring, clears house with a baseball bat. EY just looks at Sting and runs away. He's just like, nope.
I appreciate him just being like, this is too much for me. I'm out of here. My nightmares have come to truth.
He warned them. He told them he was coming back.
He was right.
He should be vindicated. They should let him go home.
Planet Eric.
He's the true leader.
Yeah. The most influential at this point.
What would an Eric Young Moon be called? This is now once again going to be the next 15 minutes of this show.
Names.
So you got Eric Young to work with. You got like Violent by Design or World Elite, or you got Showtime.
I was looking for Sanity in there too.
Sanity, there's something with Sanity. You got some decent stuff to work with Eric Young.
Yeah, right. You keep going. I'm going to look up Moon synonyms.
Planet Jarrett starts getting the better of Sting until literally everybody rushes the ring and there's like 700 people there as they're all running off Planet Jarrett. Main event of the next episode, April 8th, is Sting. We actually hear from him this time. There's no Planet Jarrett nonsense. Sting comes out to the Impact Zone with the TNA Sting theme.
Yeah, and it's a great theme. It's a really great theme.
There's an iteration of it. They make it even better. Like the second version of it is even better because it has like more song.
Yeah.
This one loops a little too fast, but it's still the TNA Sting theme, so it rocks. Sting comes out. He's like, I love wrestling. I love the fans. I love TNA. On Spike TV, no less. He was very frantic here in that he constantly was turning toward the crowd because obviously the way the Impact Zone, more than most buildings, is constructed is the crowd is on the opposite side of the hard camera, and Sting, like a natural man of the people, constantly like turns toward the crowd. He's like, but then he's not looking at the hard camera, so he needs some time in the WWE Performance Center.
Obviously, you can blow out a few ACLs.
Oh, he can't afford that. He's so old. It is one of those things. It's a stupid thing. Like the idea that you should find the hard camera. You should know where it is and work with it in mind. But like my philosophy in wrestling should always be the camera should find the wrestler shouldn't find the camera.
Yeah, well, like, because it's a show that or a type of entertainment that's dependent on audience reaction.
Yeah.
So they should be playing to the audience, not to the people at home.
Yeah, because the people at home will get more engaged if the audience in the building are engaged. That is the priority. That's what will engage the people in the building or at home. It's like a hot crowd will make me feel better about a show a lot more than a dude looking down a camera.
Yeah.
Calls Jarrett bitter, and he needs to kill that bitterness and cut it out of TNA. Calls Lethal Lockdown the match beyond. Dramatic pause. Beyond.
Beyond the match, beyond.
That would have been better. The match beyond is not as good as beyond the match beyond.
Yeah.
Says there's no place for Jarrett to run and hide. Sting won't announce his team until the Thursday debut next week, as some in the crowd then chant Goldberg.
They want it. It's crazy that the rumors are clearly out there.
And it does feel like they were waiting this long, hoping to get him. It really does.
Yeah.
Sting then challenges Jarrett for the Thursday debut. Jarrett comes out, surrounds the ring, but then the babyface army backs up Sting. The Thursday night debut, April 13th, 2006. The main event is not Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. JB has Sting earlier in the show. He's like, I issued Jarrett a challenge. Jarrett spent a lot of time in the bathroom tonight because he's shitting himself, Liam. And Sting says, we'll find out later tonight who is on his team. Then there's an interview with Planet Jarrett then right before the main event where he's talking about how he's going to teach Sting that he was right, and he said it was showtime because Eric Young is wrestling Sting, not me.
Which honestly, good match, because it's like Eric Young has been the impetus for this whole return.
How do you feel about them kind of bait and switching it though?
It's 2024.
You can't get mad at it?
I don't care. No, I can't get mad at it.
I do think you could have just announced Sting and EY.
Yeah, I don't know, ratings ploy.
It is, like, that's what it is. They want to tease the idea that he'll be wrestling Jarrett and then pull the rug out so he'll be wrestling EY. But
I don't mind it. But maybe it's just because, like, I don't care otherwise. If you asked me in 2006, maybe I would have.
So then, main event. As you said, perfect match. Showtime versus Showtime. Sting versus Eric Young.
What are your thoughts?
It was, like, Sting is super energetic. Like, he's working really hard. But it is ultimately, like, a 6-minute TV match.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's fun. I don't have any problems with it. I wasn't like expecting anything bigger or better, I guess.
And like Eric Young shouldn't be taking Sting to the limit. This is what it should be.
And it helps that like I don't have expectations for Impact matches.
We get the first full Sting TNA theme entrance for a match, which is nice. EY tries to throw some chops and punches, but Sting fires up and EY just freaks out.
Eric Young plays it so well. You have to give him credit for it. Like he really knows he knows his role.
He's found a character that really works for him, and as a dude who's not currently pushed, as a dude who's not currently even really featured, he's on the show a bit, but it is exclusively as a lower card jobber. He has found himself this niche and this character that makes him stand out without actually being pushed, so it's really good for him. Sting wipes out EY and Shelly with a slingshot crossbody, so he's doing some wacky flips. Well, flips is generous, but dives. It was this is the genesis. It's like this is the moment where he does this one slingshot crossbody is like diving.
It awoken something in his brain.
It feels good to throw yourself off of stuff.
That's not a message that this podcast endorses.
No, unless it's a bouncy castle. Do people throw themselves off bouncy castles? Not really.
I'll give it a go.
Sting fires Shelley into the rail and goes for the Stinger Splash, but onto EY on the floor. But EY moves, Sting hits the rail, and that's how EY gets the heat for a little while. EY does the lamest Stinger shout of all time. He's like, "Arr!" It is the perfect kind of lame. Sting fires up, Stinger Splash to EY and D'Amore, who like tries to interfere and put himself in harm's way, but Sting just kind of gets both of them with the Stinger Splash. Sting wins, then Scorpion Death Drop. Straightforward match, nothing special, not going out there to have a 5-star classic. It is very much Sting plays some hits, EY gets some heat, Sting plays some hits, in and out.
And like, what more do you want?
Yeah, and what more? And it's like, listen, it's a 42-minute TV show. They actually had a substantial opener on this particular episode as well. It's the first time they've had a good match on television in a long time, so I will forgive them for not going balls out with Sting here. Shelley jumps Sting after the match, but Sting locks him in the deathlock. Jarrett runs out with a guitar. Sting blocks and breaks the guitar with a bat. AMW and Steiner run out, get the better of Sting. Styles, Rhino, and Ron Killings run out to make the save. As Sting looks around and confirms, looks like I got a team. So Sting's team for Lethal Lockdown will be AJ Styles, Ron Killings, and Rhino.
I like the implication there that Sting had a different team in mind. But these are the guys who saved him, so he's like, oh, fine.
It was a test, actually. Whoever came out to help him were the guys who would make the team.
Yeah.
With Sting announcing his Lethal Lockdown team, that ends the Goldberg speculation. The bottom line with Goldberg is that he considered strongly coming in with his motivation to stick it to Vince, but doesn't believe in lowering his value by coming in for anything but what he believes is fair money for his name value. The problem is, being out of wrestling, he doesn't realize the economics of the game have changed greatly since WCW in 1998.
He wants WCW money, then.
Yeah, he wants Bill Goldberg money, which, listen, you can't blame him. He is Bill Goldberg. But the pay disparity between what TNA was paying in 2006 versus what WCW was paying in 1998 is probably like a factor of 75 at least. Like, it cannot be stressed that the difference in payrolls is substantial between these two companies. So the money TNA has floating around potentially for Goldberg is a lot less than the money WCW had floating around for like Mikey Whipwreck. Never mind Bill Goldberg. A funny backstory of the Eric Young Sting stuff is Young was a gigantic fan of Sting growing up. He was really thrilled when Sting came in and Sting would talk with him, and even more with when Sting painted his face for the Dave Sahadi Fellini video that opened Destination X. So Sting did the face paint for EY, which is nice.
That's so cute.
And he was apparently getting very excited about the idea of wrestling him.
I mean, it's nice for like good people to get to do cool things in wrestling.
The go home show, as you said, they did seem to run out of steam a little bit. So AJ Styles, Rhino, and Ron Killings get a little squash over Diamonds in the Rough. Styles and Truth hit a really cool stereo flip dive, like perfectly in stereo. Rhino hip tosses Diamond, and then there's an abrupt cut to the crowd, so something was edited out there. My favorite moment in this match, if you watch when AJ gets the tag to Rhino, I don't think he's supposed to. I think they're supposed to get the heat on AJ and then the hot tag to Killings. But Diamonds in the Rough did not actually control AJ properly. And AJ, like, that does what he should do. If he's able to make the tag, he made the tag. Like, it's worse, I think, for in that instance when somebody like deliberately hangs around so that they can wait to be cut off. It's like, if you weren't cut off on time, that's on the heels. Fuck ye, you know?
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, so he makes the tag to Rhino, who does like a couple moves before get cut off, and they get a quick heat on Rhino before then he makes the tag to Killings, and who does the actual comeback. But I found that really interesting. It's like AJ got loose and just made the tag because he could make the tag.
Yeah, which is I always prefer stuff like that than just like the awkward, I'm not supposed to do this part of the match yet.
And like these men, it's in the name, Liam, they're meant to be professional wrestlers. Like, if you can't adapt on the fly to start getting the heat on Rhino real quick, you shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
AJ dodges Skipper's spin kick and hits the Pele as Truth falls with the axe kick for the axe kick for the win. The axe kick is an MJF move.
And that he's kick his ass.
Main event of that episode is Jeff Jarrett and AMW versus Team 3D, and a man we will talk about more in a moment, Brother Runt.
Yes, Brother Runt is here.
This match is fine. There's a lot of Team 3D matches and there's a lot of crowd brawls this month, and none of them are very good, but Harris absolutely murders Brother Runt with a catatonic in this match. Like,
which is what he is here to do.
But like, he rotates him so much that he like lands almost like on his skull.
Which is what he is here to do.
Everyone hits their move. Bully goes for the shake, rattle, and roll, but Gale low blows him. Run hits acid drop on Gale, or the Dudley dog if you don't know what an acid drop is. And then Rude comes out, breaks a hockey stick over Run, allowing Jarrett to get the pin. Then we have the classic TNA wrestling big ass brawl to close the show as Planet Jarrett attacks, Sting's Warriors make the save, Abyss and Christian get involved, Steiner and Sting get involved, and everyone's brawling on the pay-per-view go-home show.
Brother Runt, most over man of all time.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a sec, but the biggest pop in TNA history, maybe. Like, it's insane. It's actually crazy the reaction he gets.
People love his cruiserweight title run.
Everyone's favorite run in TNA history.
Wait a minute.
It's not about weight limits, Liam. It's about weight limits.
No, the WWE speed. It's not about weight limits. It's about time limits.
Yeah, I like those speed matches.
They were fun.
It's fun to interact with WWE for 2.5 minutes at a time.
Where like their production is so scaled back that you can't get mad at it.
So that takes us to Lockdown, in which the main event is not the world title match. It is Lethal Lockdown. There's 2 backstage promos. There's one where JB has Jarrett's army. Larry tells them that they won the coin toss. There's a whole Larry story that we'll talk about in a second. But this is mostly about that. But Harris in that promo talks about AMW made 6 Sides of Steel famous, and Steiner is ready to snap. So I do like that they're like cage matches are AMW's thing.
Yeah, well, as it should be at this point.
They have famously done a few of them at this point.
And they've been famously very good.
And then also they had a quick interview with Sting's Warriors as well, which is nothing special. Truth says what's up a bunch, and then he's like, war is up.
Warrior. That's a different guy on the show.
He is on this show, but you have to wait a little bit. That brings us to Lethal Lockdown, as Sting's Warriors face Jarrett's army. I do appreciate them having team names.
Not Planet Jarrett, notably.
They never use Planet Jarrett. It's really weird.
It's one of those things that just became canon.
Yeah, everyone started to call it's like Joker's thing, I guess. No one actually called him Joker's thing, but obviously he was just Joker's thing. So, like, he was the insane icon in TNA.
Well, I think it's like interesting because like when Jarrett was like super prominent on Dynamite, and everyone's like, just call it Planet Jarrett. Like they could have, because that's not an IP.
Yeah, TNA never called him that. It was just a line in Jarrett's promos where he was like, "Welcome to Planet Jarrett. You're living in my world." Woo 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 woo. But yeah, even here when they have a team name for a Lethal Lockdown match, it is Jarrett's Army. It's not Planet Jarrett.
Jarrett Goon.
And how do you feel about Sting's Warriors?
It's no Sting Squadron, is it?
No, you need the alliteration, you see.
Yeah. Sting's Soldiers.
Yeah, Sting's Soldiers, Sting's Squadron.
Jarrett's Jackasses.
That's what Sting should have called them. Usual Lethal Lockdown format. As we said, it's an evolution of last year because there's the ceiling on the cage now, but it is 2-man start, staggered entrances. You can only pin after everybody's come out, and the roof lowers after everybody's come out.
So my main note is that it was pretty alright. I enjoyed my time watching this Lethal Lockdown.
And you're a famous War Games hater.
Allegedly. Allegedly I am. But I don't know, yeah, I just thought it was fun. Like, I think I have more of a problem with regular cage matches.
Yeah.
Than I do with, like, something like this. Because this is just done well. And I guess it's so sporadic. Like, we don't get a ton of... even though we got a cage match on the build-up to this. Like, we don't get a ton of cage matches outside of the month. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm into it. I thought it was fun. And I liked the Lethal Lockdown with the weapons getting raised down at the end. I think that adds a different element to it. That adds a... It breaks up, like, the stagnant elements of a cage match.
And it gives like a visual indicator of the next phase. Because like my problem with like a lot of both WWE and AEW's War Games is that like the match beyond is just too long. Like they do the staggered entrances, they get to the match beyond, and then that is usually like 20 to 30 minutes. And it's been both the problem with the WWE ones and the AEW ones, and that's just too long for me. Whereas here, like I think from when Sting lowers the cage to the finish is about 6 or 7. Like, and I think that's about right. Where you start going into near falls, you start going into like the end of the match, the wacky stunt, of course, which we'll talk about in a second, and then the match is over. That feels better paced to me than like you get to, you know, when everyone's out there and then the match after that is twice as long as what you've already had before. That just feels agonizing to me.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that because of the way staggered entrances work, the first half is always going to be like infinitely annoyingly long too.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it might work better with 8 instead of 10, just for pacing.
Yeah, it gets you out of the part of the match where like nothing matters.
So AJ Styles and Chris Harris are the two that start. Gail Kim and Jackie Gator are at ringside. Styles hits the Styles Clash at the end of the initial 5-minute period, then 2-minute intervals after that. Earl Hebner's starts counting for some reason. It's like, Earl, there are rules here, Earl. You're the referee. You're meant to be enforcing them.
He's going into business for his own.
As Storm starts coming out, Styles attempts to dropkick the cage door into Storm, but Storm ducks and it hits Gale.
And it doesn't... We don't know if that's, like, supposed to be like that.
Yeah, I watched it back a few times after while I was doing the notes, and I think it's deliberate. Like, I think it's deliberate, but I'm still not entirely sure.
Or, like, did they not tell Jackie about the spot?
Because Jackie looks legitimately concerned. She is like, are you okay?
Not in an are you okay in, like, a way that makes sense for anything in the story, because she's meant to hate this woman.
Yeah, she should be, like, cheering.
Yeah, she's, like, genuinely concerned.
And, like, yeah, because you look at the way it's set up and you look at where Gale is, I'm pretty sure it was the intended spot. But maybe you're right, they just didn't tell Jackie.
Or, like, and not even, like, in a, like, dick way. Like, maybe she just wasn't there when they called the spot or something. A lot of people to be in the room while they're, planning the match.
Styles and Harris are already bleeding by the time the third person comes out, so Rhino's out next. We do get Brokeback Mountain chants, just to make sure that we have Brokeback Mountain chants and references on every show under the sun that happens in 2006.
Yeah.
Jarrett next, and Rhino uses the cage door opening to meet Jarrett on the ramp, which I thought that was a nice touch. It's like, oh, we are going to be at the numbers disadvantage, so we're going to take the fight to Jarrett, but then they still get overrun. You did accurately predict on the watch along, TNA.com, the order of entrance.
And I used logic, which makes this match logical.
Yeah, it's like the psychology of the match made sense because you laid out while the Harris and Styles period was going out how would do the entrances, and they did them exactly in the order that you said they should.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know, like they did the right choice, I think. Like the only one that could have gone the other way is like Ron and Rhino, but like I think that talk about it as a shoot. The power of Rhino was needed in that moment.
Yeah, like because there was psychology to each entrant. So Styles is your endurance guy, he starts. Harris is your big tough guy, he starts.
With cage experience.
Yes, cage expert Chris Harris. So obviously James Storm should be out next. You want AMW out together as fast as possible. So then even if you're Sting, you're like game theorying it. It's like they're going to send AMW out first, right? They're going to do that. So who do I send out? It's Rhino. He's like the big powerful guy who can turn the tide.
Perhaps take out one of the AMW members to like reduce the tag team element of their game.
Yeah. So then you're like, if you're Jarrett, you're like, do I send myself out next or Steiner out next? And you're like, no, we save Steiner for last because he's like the pitch hitter. He's the shotgun. I think you said.
I said he's the glass cannon because he doesn't have the endurance to last the full match. But if he's your final call, he can lay people out.
So Jarrett's out third, Truth is out then, and Sting and Steiner are both like in that category of like dudes who don't have the legs but have the explosiveness. So those are the two dudes you put out last, and that's how they constructed the match. So it made perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty great.
There was a Tower of Doom spot where AJ effectively took a brainbuster from the top of the cage.
It was gonna be like real bad, and it was like only pretty bad.
Yeah, he tucked just enough that you're like, okay, he's fine. But like it was a classic Tower of Doom, but he was on the very top of it. And they've done a couple of those. Like there was one I think where Daniels rotated all the way over onto his face. I think that was in the Triple X AMW cage match. But this one where AJ stayed in the suplex position the entire time and came down on his shoulders, but not quite neck. So I think he was okay.
Yeah, but it looked like it was going to be real bad for a second.
So Steiner was the last guy out for Planet Jarrett. He suplexes everybody. Somebody shouts, "You suck" at Steiner, and he just screams, "No, your mother sucks" back at them.
Classic.
Steiner dumps Truth with a top rope suplex. Just absolutely dumps the man. And then Sting is last out for Sting's Warriors. Rhino's also bleeding at this point. Crowd chants steroids at Steiner. Sting runs wild a little bit before they bring the ceiling down. And they make a break, like a cool production moment of that, where like they lower the ceiling. Sting is actually like bring it down. So Sting runs wild and then they bring the cage down when Sting says so. And they let off some pyro as the cage comes down. So it's actually a cool moment.
It feels like a shifting of the match.
And then the match beyond begins. Storm and AJ immediately escape, which is funny. It's so funny, like the idea we put the roof on the cage to stop people. Nope, Storm and AJ are out.
Especially since I was like, I think someone could get out from there, and then immediately.
And James Storm was like, oh, yeah, maybe I could. So they escape up to the cage roof. Gale tries to pursue them, but Jackie pulls her skirt off.
Which was a real confronting moment where I was like, come on guys, don't do the upskirt. And then immediately they tore her skirt off and I was like, well, yeah.
At least they weren't subtle about it.
No.
Sting looks to hit Jarrett with a guitar, but Steiner saves him with a low blow, and Sting eats a Jarrett guitar shot. So Styles then places Storm on a table on top of the Lethal Lockdown cage.
Insanity. And like, not a thing that gets replayed. Just like a one-off crazy thing that you don't see ever.
Of like the crazy TNA spots, like you see the Skipper cage walk, you see like the Hardy Swanton from Bound for Glory in 2005. You see those a lot more than you see this, and I think this is just as crazy as the rest of them. So like he sets Storm up on a table on top of the Lethal Lockdown. They're on the top of the cage. There's also a ladder up there for reasons, who knows. Someone needs to access the lighting rig, obviously. So Styles climbs the ladder and then doesn't come off the ladder, Liam. He climbs onto the lighting truss that is hanging from the literal ceiling of the impact zone.
Like, and you think about it, because like he's doing this on a ladder that is on top of a cage, that is like, this could go so badly in so many ways. Like just him climbing it.
Like Dave makes the note that like if that cage roof caved in like it did for Mick Foley, those two men would have died.
Yeah, but I thought the same thing, and then I looked at the cage for 3 seconds. Was like, that's not happening.
It is a much firmer cage than WWE's Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
So yeah, AJ climbs out onto the lighting rig. He is hanging from the literal top of the ceiling. And it's a pretty high ceiling in that impact zone. It's a big soundstage. So he's hanging from the literal top of the ceiling, which I really hope they tested. He dangles for a little bit, and he drops a splash off of the lighting rig through Storm through a table on top of the Lethal Lockdown. Awesome spot. Really cool. And like, it's something that is also extremely impressive, but assuming nothing breaks, has a relatively low risk of danger. Because it is ultimately like a splash through a table. Once the lighting rig doesn't collapse, and once the cage doesn't break, everything's pretty fine there.
I would have been more concerned about the lighting rig coming down after AJ than I would have been about the cage roof.
Oh, just crashing down on top of them?
Yeah.
That would have been a disaster. So yeah, awesome spot. Crowd go wild. Commentary go wild. Everyone's having a great time. And then Sting submits Harris with the Scorpion Deathlock. Or after Rhino wipes out Jarrett with a gore. So that's Lethal Lockdown. A tight match, a fun match. Everyone hitting their stuff. It's not, as I said, like 8 guys, I think, streamlines the pace a little bit. They didn't go too long in the match beyond portion. You had your typical stunt in this match. Well structured, like psychologically sound, coherently built. Good match.
Yeah, it does the job. It's entertaining. It's not boring. It doesn't go on for too long. It's pretty much everything you'd want from it.
Which is like a 5-star endorsement from Cage Match War Games hater Liam Jones.
Yeah.